Good evening, folks. A lot of you have asked me to watch Professor G's latest videos. I'm not in the habit of watching his videos. Occasionally I do watch them, but I don't watch them religiously because I'm just kind of busy. But I did take time to watch this one because there's people making statements that someone has gone on X and claimed that he and I are coaching refugees. Nothing could be further from the truth. So I wanted to watch this video and see what he had to say. And for once, I'm commenting on a Professor G video, which is ironic because he's often comments on my videos, which is perfectly fine. He also gives credit where credit is due, and I appreciate that. But I have to say that whoever's doing this, he's being very magnanimous, understanding that people probably gotten ineligibility letters and are frustrated and are taking it out. Well, I'm not going to be as magnanimous. People who commit such slander should be exposed for their lies. You're upset. You made yourself ineligible. He didn't do it. I didn't do it. I've never told you anything but the truth and never done anything but give you free, insightful, lucid, cogent, forward-thinking, and forward-leaning analysis of news, events, politics, culture, and in this case, the refugee program. And I stand by my record, which has been spot on time after time after time after time. You know, 4 months ago, I was attacked by people because I did a video saying that there would be ineligibility letters coming out. It's just a matter of time. And I was accused of fear-mongering. I was accused of spreading misinformation, accused of trying to dissuade people from participating, and accused of damaging the program. Now, how in the world am I damaging the program by simply telling people the truth? And there should be an expectation that some people will not be eligible. I've talked about ineligibility for the past year whenever people asked about whether they're eligible. But this smear campaign began a few months ago. And Professor G may want to be magnanimous, but I'm not going to be magnanimous about smear campaigns. My video was accurate, it was prescient, and it was on the money. And then I did another one, and I was smeared again. And then a month later, I did another one. And then ironically, just about 6 hours before the ineligibility letters actually went out, I did my latest video in which I explained to people there will be people who are ineligible. And I told people what the reasons were. The reasons were very simply for dual passports, for not being in the country, for being caught lying, and for other reasons making you ineligible, like not getting immunizations, and for a criminal history. I made that clear, and I was smeared about that. If you're unhappy, your problem is not with Professor G or me. Your problem is with yourself. And quit undermining the program, because you people are the ones undermining this program. You are the ones who are pissing off the US government. Trust me, they're not happy with this nonsense. Some of you have made yourselves ineligible because of your childish behavior on social media. Others because unfortunate circumstances happened many, many years ago. And that's unfair, but unfortunately, it's the reality. And that's the thing that's going on here. Now, Professor G recently did a video in which he said the law firm that he works for is willing for a fee to research these FOIA cases for people and see if they can't figure something out. He made it very clear that he doesn't make money from this. He also made it very clear that it may not amount to anything. In fact, that's likely to be the outcome. But his firm is offering opportunity to try to get a better window into what happened or maybe repair it. I don't think anything will come of that, and I'm not convinced that he thinks anything will come of it either. But that's a venue. And someone whined and said, well, only rich people. Well, you know what? That's too bad. You know, people should plan for the future and put reserves aside and prepare for rainy days. This would be a rainy day if you want that solution. But as it stands, it's a letter of ineligibility, which is not appealable. But there are people out there spreading false hope, lying to South Africans. They need to stop it. They need to stop lying to South Africans. If, in fact, there is a venue, a method, a means to resolve this for people who've received ineligibility letters, do you think that I would hold back for a microsecond to tell people that I wouldn't rush the press to tell you that there's a way around this? Of course I would. But at present, no such thing exists. And the people who are undermining the program are the ones who are running around giving false hope. And shame on them. I'm not going to be as magnanimous as Professor G. I've had enough of people behaving this fashion. You're not helping anyone. and you're selfish beyond all comprehension. Many people have to make very difficult decisions in this process, and you're not helping their situation with your tantrums. I have talked to several families now in person who've received ineligibility letters. All of them heartbroken. None of them disrespectful or rude. And certainly none of them blaming Professor G or blaming me for it. And in each case, the people who told me they were ineligible gave me a very clear reason that they believe that they might be ineligible, and I agree with every one of those cases. And it's sad to see. But unlike the Farayas and the people spreading misinformation, I've actually talked to these people, not simply received WhatsApp messages or denial letters. I've sat next to them and broken bread with people who've received ineligibility letters. It's not an easy thing for them, and sad for me to hear. But there are people out there that are misbehaving, and the numbers are growing. They're not helping this program at all. So another topic, which isn't the topic of the video, but Professor G says that Trump calls it a genocide, so he calls it genocide. Steve Hofmeyr is calling it a genocide. I've long said there's a cultural genocide underway in South Africa. But as a political scientist, I'm still not calling the entire situation a genocide as such. The stages of genocide have certainly gone through. Most of the stages have been achieved in South Africa, and that's very frightening. So even if it isn't a genocide, it's on the verge of becoming one. And that's where I sit on it. So if you want to quote me on the record, you can take that position. That's a position I've held for a few years now, and I haven't budged from it. At the moment, I'm not changing my position. So people can say what they want to say. They can call me what they want to call me. That's their moral failing, not mine. Folks, the program is not a right. It's a privilege. And the U.S. government doesn't have to extend that privilege. Professor G is convinced that there is misbehavior taking place. I have no evidence to support that. All I have is anecdotal people saying things. Oftentimes those comments are retracted, which makes me glad that I didn't move forward with their comments, because then I would look like a fool believing someone who later retracted their comments. I have no basis to see that there's anything untoward going on here. There's a question of ineligibility and inadmissibility. And he had sort of addressed that in his earlier video. And I got to say that I think that, I don't know if that was his intent, but he may be onto something there, because most of the things that people have been telling me, I would consider inadmissibility, which should be something you can appeal and should be noted specifically rather than just a blanket letter. Ineligibility is a cop-out, a blanket form letter stating that you're ineligible with your name, your case number, the date, and that's it. Saying it's not appealable is a cop-out. And we can do better as a government, as a nation. We should give people reasons why they're ineligible. Or in this case, I believe not ineligible, but inadmissible. In other words, they're eligible in that they're a South African living in South Africa, victim of past persecution or fear of future persecution. All of that, they check all those blocks, Afrikaner or racial minority. So they are eligible, but they're inadmissible because of past conviction, caught lying, refusal to do immunizations, or not in the country, so they wouldn't have been eligible in the first place. So there should be a distinction there. I think they really, really, really need to get this sorted out, because it is causing lots of consternation. Again, more letters went out in the past few days. I spoke to someone in Port Elizabeth who received one of those letters, and I received a message from one of my viewers today who received another one. It is very difficult to accept this when we see, as Professor G alluded to in his recent video, and I've talked about in the past, we've allowed 168,000 unvetted Afghans into our country, some of whom turn out to be terrorists. And that's a consequence of the failures of the Biden regime. And I'll make this clear, South Africans are not being held to a higher standard, which some of them claim. They're being held to the standard. It's unfortunate for you that now the U.S. government chooses to follow the rule of law and not in the past. And quite frankly, that failure to follow the rule of law adequately can be extended to the Obama, the first Trump administration, and the Biden administration. But now they're adhering to the rule of law. And that may seem unfair, But the mission of USCIS is not to bring refugees to America. It's to protect Americans and our borders. That's its primary mission. This is a secondary mission. So you can understand why the focus would be to protect America. What say you, South Africa, Zanzi? From Orania, this is Chris. God bless and have a good evening.